cars go brr in the Australian outback, and Mel Gibson, Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, and now Anya Taylor-Joy are here to tear the post-apocalyptic wasteland a new. I'm Ewan, and I'm joined by Lachlan to talk about the 5 films in the Mad Max saga and how the franchise has evolved from a surprise hit that has made George Miller into the infamous filmmaker that he now is. Now, Lachlan, as an Aussie yourself, I'm Swiss. We're pretty neutral on this, and we do have a lot of water. The water scarcity is more something that you can relate to, maybe. Do the Mad Max film pass the test, the Down Under test?
Of course they passed the Down Under test. They're a quintessential Australian movie, which, as a thing, I have started making my quintessential Australian movie list on Letterboxd that I'm happy to share with you very soon, once I've finalized all the movies on there. But, of course, it's exactly what I think would happen to Australia if nuclear fallout was to happen, and that's just a ridiculous amount of love for V8 engines and just engines in general. I love the fact that you kind of get to see what happened to Sydney in Beyond Thunderdome at the end, and then since then they're like, yep, let's not look at the city, let's just go straight into like the middle of Australia and see what's happening in there, because clearly that's the best place to be for a Mad Max movie. I love these movies. I think they're a lot of fun. I feel like for at least with Mad Max 2 and Fury Road and now with Furiosa, they're the perfect example of what can happen when everything kind of fits into place, where you get the best people to work on this film. You have enough money to make the movie, because with Mad Max 1, you do experience the lack of budget hitting the film quite a bit, where they're trying to do these big ideas, but it's just not visually there. Mad Max 2 is kind of like that really good combination of more production design, but more focus on the action that they really probably couldn't achieve compared to the first one. And then with Beyond Thunderdome, something weird happened where I still think Beyond Thunderdome has the best of the production design of the first 3 in the trilogy, but it suffers from some weird narrative structure of wanting to make it like a kid's film, and I don't know why. I feel like he probably saw the Goonies and went, yeah, I reckon we should do the Goonies but in Mad Max. And I'm like, no, don't fucking do the Goonies in Mad Max. Anyway, other than that, Furiosa has taken the cake of setting you up, and I'm pretty lucky that in the past week I have watched 1, 2, 3 Furiosa and now Fury Road in that particular order, and I have to admit, that is right now the best order you should watch it in. Some people will argue, for example, that you should watch the original Star Wars movies before the prequels. But if you watch the prequels before the originals, it is definitely a lot more engaging from a narrative standpoint of knowing the story that went through Darth Vader's head that's happening in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. So for me, Mad Max has always been such a fun movie to watch, just breaking it down from the action to the story to the weird leather. Like, why is everyone in BDSM gear? Why is everyone wearing leather? Why does everyone look like Channing Tatum from the End of the World movie? Where World's End, where whatever it is, where he plays like a dog in a gimp costume. Like, why is that what happened in George Miller's head? But I love it, and it's just a fantastic world that he's developed, and I love that it's always George Miller. There's no one else who's done this yet. It's always coming from his head, and I feel like unfortunately, when George eventually leaves this planet and someone has to be given the task to make the next Mad Max movie, I worry for the shoes that they'll have to fill, because, my God, he has made a fantastic series of films.
Dude has made shoes so big to film they look like clown shoes. I feel like Mad Max is... funnily enough, when you look at franchises that have eclipsed the 4 to 5 movies range, it's usually on the back of a really successful first or second part. Like if you look at Terminator, or the first 3 for Lord of the Rings. For Harry Potter, maybe it's a bit of a different thing, because I feel like a lot of people hold like the 3rd and the 5th one in high regard, maybe the 4th one for some. That's maybe another like really consistent franchise until the later ones. But there's rare that like now in the 2020s or in the 2010s even, we get a franchise that feels like it's in its peak with like the fifth or sixth or whatever iteration in it. And Mad Max is such a crazy exception for that, because I feel like it never has lost its voice. It just has given George Miller more, I guess, budget, more resources, and ultimately with the crazy drive that he must have had to make the mad film that is Fury Road, we have gotten something so unique that has eclipsed pretty much any other action movie, any other sci-fi action movie as well. I feel like it's up there in like the top 5, maybe even you can consider it top 3, and there's an argument to be made that it's like one of the, if not the best action film made. It's that great. When you create a movie like that, and then you got 2 others that get pretty close to being like incredible, not getting as incredible as this, but the second one and Fury Road and and Furiosa both offer different things. And that's what's so unique about this franchise, that it feels like it creates a universe that is so compelling without completely diverging and doing something that it's a completely different planet. But none of the characters essentially need to tie over in this overarching story. Everything in the first 3 films feels like very different, but not in a bad way. Which make this franchise like quite unique, as like the lone ranger that rolls into town and gets thrown into I guess the conflict and comes out the same man. Usually Mad Max, Max doesn't really change that much. And maybe in Fury Road he does a tiny bit. He's a bit more open to, I guess, working together with people, being less of a loner. But there's not a ton that goes on. But they're still like incredibly entertaining. I think the original trilogy, I had seen them for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I was just not aware how crazy the like last third of the second film is when it comes to action. Where like when you watch the first one, you're like, how does this universe lead anywhere close to Fury Road? It's just a bike gang and there's a bunch of cops, and then maybe there's a bit of a revenge plot towards the end, and it's the inspiration for Saw. James Wan saw this one and was like, I can do that with the Saw at the end there. But the second one is just putting it onto another level, which just makes me believe that George Miller was always goated with the sauce. He always had it. And it makes me incredibly keen to see him continue this legacy. Like you said, it's going to be sad when he's not going to be able to make another entry in this franchise. And I feel like it should end with him. I don't see anyone else who would be able to do that. In the podcast where we talked about it this week, he said that the only other person you could see doing it is James Cameron. And I kind of agree. Onto what other level is the filmmaker like able to do and put that much work into making it really coherent in the world design. So yeah, Mad Max. If you haven't caught up with the original trilogy, as far as rankings go, Lachlan, I feel like we're the same. Where Fury Road is at the top, and then maybe it's a bit interchangeable between Mad Max 2 and Furiosa, followed by the first Mad Max, and at the bottom we got Thunderdome, because Thunderdome is a bit odd. It's also got like the children, almost like the third Star Wars film there with the Ewoks, and yeah, it seems to be a different target audience and different type of story that they go with. Do you think the third one kind of killed this franchise for like a long time, or do you think it just kind of had its run before it returned? Obviously, I feel like George Miller wanted to return to it earlier than when he got to make Fury Road, and then also Furiosa had a very bumpy road to get made.
I think beyond Thunderdome, they really wanted to try to achieve a film where they could market it to children, and they've got like more. It's a serious world, and they realize that they can't. They need to go away from that, so they had to kind of get the head out of it. He made kids movies. He made his money with Babe. He made his money with Happy Feet, right? So let him do that. Now let him come back. Let him cook. Let him like let it simmer. Let him cook, and then he's cooked, and he's made 2 really fan-fucking-tastic movies in this universe. And sure, he's gone away and he's done 3,000 Years of Longing, and it's not as good. That's fine. Let the man do what he wants to do, but let him do that, and then let him come back and make Mad Max, because he is not going broke making these movies. He's not doing a Francis Ford Coppola and making fantastic movies, making his movies, and then being financially unsustainable, so he has to get out of debt and make these movies, and he makes a shit movie. So yeah, he is doing a fantastic job Will he make another one? I hope so. I'm pretty sure on IMDb it's called Mad Max Wasteland. I think that's the next one. Do I want it to be about Furiosa? I think not. I think I've had my story with Furiosa. I would really like to see what happens to Max, and I would love to see like an end to that story. I feel like after 6 movies, you could kind of end his story and have it done and bring a conclusion to him, because his story never concludes, and you kind of want that to happen. And I feel like it's strong enough for him. He is a hero. Like, after all, while he's a dick, he is a hero. Comes from a kind place. You can see all of those kind things that he does in all of the movies. He has a soft spot for kids. He actually is a good guy, and I'd love to see him go full good guy. You know, let him launch a nuke or something. I don't know. I've lost ideas at this point.
Well, what we can say is that Mad Max, the whole franchise, is worth revisiting. It's probably a bit hard to get a hold of. I don't remember if it's streaming anywhere. At least Fury Road was for me on Netflix.
Is in Australia.
As it should be, you know, being Australian made and all. But yeah, let us know which one your favorite Mad Max film is. Do you disagree? Is there someone who maybe likes Beyond the Thunderdome? Because there's a lot of fans for it who grew up with it, who really enjoy that one. But I feel like Fury Road is probably the most popular pick. I would be surprised if anyone has another favorite. But let us know if you do, and if you don't, what do you appreciate about Fury Road and what you thought about Furiosa. If you want to hear more of our thoughts on Furiosa, there's a short review out for that one, and this week's podcast where we get into that, as well as my coverage from the 2024 Gun Film Festival. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.